In a quiet corner of an elite suburb nestled far from the noise and chaos of the outside world, lived a man named Mr. Adrian Cola, self-made millionaire, a real estate mogul whose success story was the stuff of legend. From selling used cars, at the age of 19, to owning sprawling skyscrapers by 35, Adrian had built his empire with sheer grit, intelligence, and a ruthlessness that made even seasoned businessmen wary. His mansion, an architectural marvel of steel and glass, stood like a fortress, a reflection of the cold detachment that had come to define his life. Yet for all his wealth, Adrian lived alone. No wife, no kids, just an army of hired help he trusted, about as far as he could throw them. And at the heart of this household was the newest hire, a young woman named Eliza. The maid Eliza was unlike the others. In her late 20s, she was quiet but warm, precise yet gentle in her work, and always wore a smile that didn't seem forced. She spoke little, listened more, and in 3 months of service, she had become somewhat of a mystery to Adrian. Most of his staff fawned over his status or avoided him entirely. But Eliza? She seemed immune to his presence. Polite, respectful, but not impressed. That intrigued him. It also made him suspicious. He had known too many people with masks, too many stories of betrayals, dressed in silk smiles. Adrian believed in one truth: everyone has a price. And he wanted to know what Eliza's was. One Friday morning, while scanning through security footage from the hidden cameras scattered around the house, an idea began to form. It wasn't just about catching someone in the act. It was about testing loyalty, proving a point. The next day, Adrian instructed the rest of the staff to take the weekend off. The only person left in the mansion would be Eliza. He claimed it was for a security upgrade, that Eliza was needed to supervise the cleaners and gardeners scheduled for Sunday. But there were no cleaners coming, no gardeners either. There was only a trap waiting to be sprung. On Saturday morning, Adrian made sure Elisa saw him open the massive steel safe embedded into the wall of his private office. He stacked bricks of cash inside neatly bundled $100 bills, real estate documents, and a sapphire necklace worth more than most houses in the neighborhood. He made a show of closing the safe, but deliberately left it ajar just enough that a push would swing it open. He left a note on the desk, scribbled carelessly, "Meeting in Chicago. Back Monday. Don't forget to dust in here," with a cool nod. He walked past Eliza and exited the house. What Eliza didn't know, or perhaps what she wasn't supposed to know, was that Adrian wasn't really flying to Chicago. He was watching everything from the guest house just outside the estate, where a private feed from every camera in the mansion displayed her every move in real time. He had a chilled glass of bourbon in one hand and a cynical smirk on his face. "Let's see how long your halo stays on, Eliza," he murmured. The first few hours passed with nothing unusual. Eliza did her regular cleaning, humming quietly to herself, occasionally pausing to take in the beauty of the house. When she finally entered the private office late that evening, Adrian leaned forward in his chair. She stood by the door for a moment, eyes scanning the room. Then her gaze, fixed on the safe, open, gleaming, a light inside cast an eerie glow over the stacks of cash. Her hands tightened around the duster. She stepped forward. Adrian chuckled. "Here it comes." Eliza stood directly in front of the safe now. Her eyes weren't wide with greed as he had expected. They were thoughtful. She tilted her head, examining the inside, and then she sat down. Right there on the floor, cross-legged like a child at story time. She didn't touch the money. She didn't even glance around for cameras. She just sat there. After a long moment, she pulled out something from her pocket, a photograph. Adrian's brow furrowed. Eliza looked at the photo for a while. Then she began to speak, not to anyone, just out loud to herself. "You always said money makes monsters out of men, Mama. But what about the ones who stare the monster in the eye and walk away?" What was she doing? She reached into her shirt and pulled out a small gold pendant on a chain. "This necklace isn't worth much. But I remember when you gave it to me, Mama, right after Papa died. You said it was a reminder to choose character over comfort, that no amount of pain or poverty was worth selling our soul for. And I've tried, Mama. I've tried to be that person. Adrian leaned closer to the screen, his smirk fading. Eliza stood up, brushed off her skirt, and closed the safe carefully. She even spun the dial. Then, to Adrian's utter disbelief, she pulled out a notepad and wrote a note of her own. The safe was open. I didn't touch a thing. If you need to test me again, I hope next time you ask instead of trap. Eliza. Adrian stared at the screen, completely frozen. She knew. Somehow she knew. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came. He sat back, the bourbon untouched, the air around him feeling heavier than ever. That night, Adrian didn't sleep. He kept watching the footage again and again, rewinding, pausing, replaying. The way she handled herself, the words she said, the truth in her voice. There was no act, no hidden motive, no price tag. It hit him hard. Not because Eliza had passed the test, but because he realized no one had ever done that before. One person in his entire life had made a choice like that when no one was looking. And for the first time in years, the millionaire cried. Tears not of guilt or shame, but of something deeper, of a soul starting to wake up. Adrian Cole sat in silence long after the footage ended. His private suite in the guest house, once a haven of luxury and control, now felt like a cold chamber echoing with a single truth. He was the one being tested. For years, Adrian believed that wealth gave him wisdom, that money could measure a person's soul. But Eliza shattered that illusion with grace, humility, and a note that pierced deeper than any lie ever had. He hadn't cried since his father's funeral. And now, in the dead of night, with rain beginning to patter gently against the glass windows, he was wiping tears from his face like a man waking up from a long, cruel dream. By morning, something in Adrian had changed. He showered, dressed plainly, left behind his Rolex, and walked back toward the mansion, uncertain of what he was going to say. Part of him wanted to apologize. Part of him wanted to thank her. But more than anything, he wanted to understand. Her? Who was she really? And why, in a world obsessed with gain, had she chosen to walk away from what so many others would have stolen? Eliza was in the garden, trimming the hedges with soft precision. She turned when she saw him approaching, her face calm, unreadable. She wasn't surprised to see him, but she didn't smile either. I thought you were in Chicago, she said. Quietly, not accusingly, just stating fact. I was never there, Adrian admitted. I was watching from the guest house. I figured, she replied, turning back to the hedge. Adrian paused, unsure of how to begin. Why didn't you take the money? Lisa stopped, turned the shears upside down, and rested her hands on the handles because it wasn't mine. But no one would have known, Adrian pressed. You could have taken one bundle, even two. I'd never have noticed. That necklace in there, it's worth over 80 grand. Just slipping it into your pocket would have changed your life. She looked at him with eyes that didn't flinch. If I needed money, I could have asked, but stealing it? That would have changed something else me. I've lost too much already. To lose myself, Adrian was struck dumb. The words echoed inside him like thunder in a hollow chamber. He motioned for her to follow him inside. She hesitated, but eventually complied. Back in the living room, Adrian poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to her. They sat across from each other, the heavy silence of the mansion now replaced with a strange intimacy. What have you lost? Liza took a sip, exhaled deeply, and began her story. I grew up in Northside, rough neighborhood. My mom worked 2 jobs and still came home smiling. My dad left before I could remember his face, when I was 14. My younger brother, Micah, got sick. Leukemia. My mother sold everything to pay for his treatment, even her wedding ring. But it wasn't enough. She cleaned houses, ironed clothes for rich families, anything she could find. Some days she didn't eat so I could, but I was angry. I thought she wasn't doing enough. I blamed her. Stayed out late, stole a little here and there, just small stuff, a phone, a wallet, things I told myself they wouldn't miss. I told myself it was survival, but I knew it wasn't. She paused. Her fingers tightened around the glass. One day I broke into a car. I just wanted the cash. Didn't know the owner was still inside. He had a gun. I ran. Police found me a day later. I was 16. My mother bailed me out with money she'd saved for Mika's medicine. That night, she cried harder than I've ever seen anyone cry. She didn't say a word to me, just looked. Broken. A week later, Mika passed away. Never said it, but I knew. I'd cost him his last chance. Adrian said nothing. His throat felt tight. Eliza continued after that, I cleaned up. Got a job, then another. I started reading. I studied at night. Eventually got my GED. I applied for a scholarship for part-time college. Cleaning houses during the day. Studying at night. Trying to be the person Micah would have been proud of. I never touched a dollar I didn't earn again. Never lied, never. Stole. I made a promise at his grave. I'd never be a thief again. Even if the world gave me every reason to become one. Adrian closed his eyes. He saw her not as a maid now, but as someone forged in fire. Stronger than steel, holier than saints. He stood, walked to the study, and came back holding a check. Blank. He slid it across the table. Write any amount. You've earned it. Eliza pushed it back gently. I didn't do it for a reward. You were testing my soul. I passed. You failed. No check changes that. The word stung, but he nodded. She was right. Then let me do this differently, he said. Let me offer you something real. Not as a test. As a chance. I have a foundation that funds scholarships, but it's poorly managed. The team lacks heart. They see numbers, not people. I need someone who understands what it means to fight for a future. Someone like you, be its director. Eliza blinked. I'm a maid, Adrian. No, you're not, he said. You're the most honest person I've ever met. And the best leader is the one who knows what it's like to be down and still. Rise. She didn't say yes. Not immediately. But over the next few days, they talked more. About the foundation. About goals. About second chances. By the end of the week, Eliza accepted not because of the money, because of the mission. Months passed. The foundation, under her leadership, transformed. Scholarships doubled. Outreach programs launched. Adrian attended events for the first time in years, watching Eliza inspire rooms full of struggling youth who saw in her the hope they had long forgotten. And slowly, he changed too. He became less guarded, more open, started mentoring, donating not for PR, but for purpose. One evening, he stood outside the foundation's new building. Adrian looked at the sign, the Micah Cole Center for Opportunity, his middle name, her brother's name, both born again in purpose. Why did you name it that? He asked. Eliza smiled softly. Because both Micah and you taught me something. He taught me how to stay good in a cruel world. Why? And you taught me that even the coldest hearts can thaw. Adrian swallowed the lump in his throat. Thank you, he whispered. She looked at him. Don't thank me. Just keep going.